In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the merciful. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome. It was the beginning of 20th century when it was considered that the phonetics and the nature of the relationship between throughout the history of linguistics, one of the interactable problem. When we talk about the relationship between phonetics and phonology, there are three different positions and perspectives related to this phenomena. Number one is there a clear separation with an arbitrary mapping or random mapping relation between them. Means phonetics and phonology have no relationship with each other, and these are the two different fields of linguistics. Number two, parallels with direct relations between them. It means these have relationship. According to some linguists, phonetics and phonology are same field, or these are having some sort of connection and some sort of interaction with one another. Number three, separation with the principal connection between them. Means phonetics and phonology, although they are considered the different sections or different fields of language, however, they are interconnected with some sort of principal uh, points. So, number one, what was a clear separation between the two categories, or it is also called abstract view of phonology. So, as we have already discussed that according to linguists, that phonology and phonetics, these are considered some two different fields, separate fields, and what are those grounds? On the basis of those grounds, these are considered separate fields or separate sections or separate, what we can say, part of linguistics. So this would be a fully abstract view in the sense that under this view only phonology is conceived as properly part of grammar due to its formal, cognitive and abstract nature, as we have already discussed about that. It's related to brain, or it's related to the speech sound system that is existed in our brain. So on the basis of this being a cognitive or being related to the, what we can say, abstract features of speech sounds, it is considered a separate field from the phonetics. On the other hand, phonetics fails to be assigned as part of the grammar in this view, and it is being related to or relegated to the biophysics. It's related to the concrete features of the speech sounds. So the basic assumption is that phonetics components vary from one language to another, and that phonology and phonetics are regarded as entirely autonomous is of particular importance in this radical abstract view. So these are considered totally autonomous and totally independent sections, independent classes, or independent, what we can say, system, or that's why these are considered a clear separation. It is considered that there is a clear separation between the two categories. And what are those categories? Phonetics and phonology. So, about these assumptions that in phonological analysis, phonetic traits are irrelevant in logical analysis and become useless without any function of them. So, take the examples of Hungarian vowel systems. In Hungarian vowel system, here we can see the front vowel sounds and the back vowel sounds, and high and low vowel sounds are written in this chart. We can see. From a phonological point of view, it is however important to note that a front vowel e as the exponent of plural affix can be attached to both the system stem with front vowels and one with back vowels. Let's try to understand this example. Here you can see the example of kazi, a kazi, it means his hand. It's a word of Hungarian language. So e is a French vowel that is attached to this word kazi. O, number b, next b is debozai, debozai, deboza. The last sound ah, it's a back vowel sound and it's attached to e. So in previous example, kazil, it's a e or e, or debozai. ear is a back vowel sound, whereas in the last example, the front vowel sound. So in terms of vowel harmony, when we pronounce this sound kazi, there is a harmony between this word and this front vowel sound. Whereas in these example, we can see the boza e. It's difficult to pronounce a e. So there is what we can say. There is no harmony between these two vowels a e, and these are the different sounds we can understand. So in terms of vowel harmony, it is now normal on the grounds that the non-harmonious front vowel is attached to the stem, which is composed of all back vowels, like example of I, the bozai. So take these two examples of both high front unrounded or high back unrounded, high front unrounded E and high back unrounded R. So it is now crucial, it's very important that phonetically front vowels are regarded as back vowels, right? From the abstract point of view, phonetically it means when we utter those sounds and articulate those sounds, it will be considered as back vowel. The function of high back unrounded vowels is then fulfilled by these high front unrounded vowels which take over the gap. So the gap is filled in Hungarian language, not in English language. We are talking about Hungary language. So in Hungarian language, this gap is filled by this high back vowels unrounded sound. So the high French unrounded vowels are functionally back. Functionally means when we use those sounds, these are considered back vowel sounds, and but phonetically front vowel sounds. So in simple words, we can say they are used distinctively, not in the pronunciation of them, high front unrounded vowels, but in the system of the language, high front unrounded vowels versus high back unrounded vowels. So this is included in their system. So for these reasons, those analyses are typically identified as the radical abstract view. Keep in your mind, we are talking about the abstract view of the phonetics relationship of the phonetics and phonology means it is clear separation between these two different distinctive fields. So what we can say that as a radical abstract view that phonology is nothing to do with the various phonetic levels or such as the physical or articulatory and auditory phonetics level. Number two is unified model of phonetics and phonology. So what we can say, there is relationship between phonology and phonetics. It's according to this model we can discuss. So another view would be that phonology and phonetics are integrated, interconnected, or phonetics and phonology are the same into a single unit, which is all phonetics. So in this unified account, phonological components should be executed in quantitative phonetics values and which results from the idea that the area of phonology is equal to that of phonetics. So there is no discrimination, there is no segregation, there is no classification between these two things, between these two phenomena. These are considered same and it's all about phonetics. So in this model, phonetics and phonology phenomena are best handled as a uniform component on the assumption that they are not discrete, they are not segregated or different. So therefore contrastive properties coexist, non-contrastive ones within this model. So given that under this view there is no difference between phonology and phonetics, no mapping is required between these two borders or between these two phenomena. So this is consistent with Fleming's view that many similarities between phonetics and phonology should be explained by adopting a unified framework. According to Fleming, it should be noted that very existence of such uncertainty about the hypothesized dividing line between phonetics and phonology lends credence to the idea that line does not exist. So according to Fleming, that there is a uncertainty about this hypothesized dividing line means when we talk about this dividing line between phonetics and phonology, phonetics and phonology are two different fields, and these are two different section or classification of linguistics. So what we can say that we cannot see the borderline, we cannot see the clear discrimination, clear distinction between these two fields. The basic idea behind this unified model is that there is no difference in representations between phonetics and phonology. These are the same representation of the phonetics and phonology are same. It is not the case that phonological representation are discrete as opposed to continuous phonetic representation. Try to understand this notion in this way, that phonetic provides base to phonology. If we don't know about the phonetic sounds or IPA sounds, what we can say, how can we understand phonology, how can we understand stress and intonation or allophones or grammatical speech sound units. We are unable to understand those things. So phonetics provides base or foundation to understand these concepts related to phonology. So we can say that both are continuous. Phonetics remain continuous when we go towards when we start moving towards phonology, and phonology itself continuously going or moving towards new dimensions and new stages. One stage is based on the other stage. Let's see the examples. Here you can see in the left side, on the left side, IPA chart, IPA phonetic chart. As you already know about this, these are the different sounds, different vowels and consonant sounds, right? Or in the upper portions you can understand these are the 20 vowel sounds, and then the lower portion of this chart consist of consonants sounds. So these are the 44 phonetic sounds. So these sounds provides the base and foundation in this way towards phonology, that phonology deals with intonation and stress. So if we want to know about the stress in a word, or stress in a sentence, so we must know these sounds, these phonetic sounds or IPA sounds, speech sounds. So after learning these sounds, we can make discrimination in the stress and unstressed words. See this example of the word record. When it will be a noun, it will be pronounced record, and when we want to use it as a verb, it will be record, record, record or record. So these are the two variation or two different version of stress. In the first version, when it is pronounced as noun, it will be stress in the starting unit or starting syllable of this word, record. Or when it will be used as verb, it will be the second portion or second syllable of the verb will be stress, record, not first, second, record. So if we want to move towards another dimension, it is here we are discussing about the word stress, and we want to move towards the sentence stress, or in another longitudinal sections of the sentences, or we want to discuss phrases or sentences or different combining the different sentences, and we want to use the stress and unstressed words. So phonetics provides these dimensions, these knowledge, these information to phonology, and phonology itself, it's a continuous process from one unit to another unit. We go ahead in this way. So furthermore, the increased role of phonetic factors will make a separation of phonetics from phonology meaningless. So in this way, we cannot say these are not the different sections, these are not the different fields, rather than these are the same. Oh, a consequence of this view is that claim that phonetic elements fill exactly the phonological representation without any distinction between phonology and phonetics. Here we have observed in the example. So if one particular field provides the base towards another field, how can we say that these are the different things and these are the segregated things? Rather, we will consider these are the same thing. There is no discrimination, there is no gap or borderline existed between these two phenomena. Fleming 2001 indicates that phonetics and phonology are not obviously distinguished by the nature of the representation involved or in terms of the phenomena they encompass. As far as representation is concerned, most of the primitives of phonological representation remain phonetically based, as we have discussed in our previous examples. So in this sense, the features and timing units are provided with broadly phonetic definitions. So phonetic provides the base and then we move to phonology. So these are the same things. Number three is the modular view, mapping from phonology to phonetics. Means there is some sort of significant interaction between these two fields, phonetics and phonology, according to this view, modular view. Within this position, there is a constrained mapping between phonology and phonetics, so which implies phonological elements are universally related to phonetics ones to some extent. As we have discussed, that these are the interaction between these two fields that we cannot segregate from each other, and phonetics and phonology are considered significantly interrelated to each other. There is another school of thought of laboratory phonology. According to this notion, the most persuasive appeals to laboratory phonology may be the fact that it has attempted to discover the relation of phonetics to phonology more carefully, which in turn compromises the above two radical views for the most part. So as we have discussed the first two modules, or unified models, or abstract view of the relationship of the phonetics and phonology, number one and two, that we have discussed already. According to this laboratory phonology notion, that we must be very careful when we want to make a distinction, when we want to make a relationship between these two fields, we must be very careful. So according to this laboratory phonology, the idea is presented by them that there is a contrast between phonetics and phonology. These are not same things, these are not same fields, these have relationship, but apparently these are different fields, phonetics and phonology, and one deals with abstract features of the units or speech sounds, and the other is related to the physical features of the speech sounds. One is related to the grammar, or the other is related to the different segments of the sounds or speech sounds. So it cannot be totally related to each other. There is some sort of difference between these two between these two fields. So in order to figure out how phonological and phonetic elements are related to each other, laboratory phonology has introduced a new dimensions towards investigation of language phenomena, and it has presented a hybrid methodology or a hybrid approach in which experiments are designed to control for phonological structure. Phonology is focused by these by this hybrid approach or by this hybrid methodology, and experiments and different investigations are performed to investigate the phonological structure and features of the language. So in simple words, we can say that the measurement of certain aspects of phonetic components should be done in experiments that acknowledge and consider phonological components and structure in their design. Otherwise, there is no way to observe whether there is any relationship between phonological and phonetic components. Laboratory phonology gives two types of beliefs. Number one is that it believes that there should be still a division, or there must be a divider line, there must be a border line, and which differentiate one phenomena to another, like which differentiate phonology to phonetics. Instead of single module, therefore, there must be two distinctive modules or two prominent having prominent features, or based on the prominent features of these two modules, it must be considered as two different modules, phonological and phonetic modules. On the other hand, they also argue that although apparently these are the two different or distinctive modules or distinctive fields, however, there is a connectivity between these two modules, as one provides foundations to another. So in this way we can say that there is a strong connection between phonology and phonetics in laboratory phonology, which is represented by a considerable interconnection between the two modules. So in this respect, laboratory phonology is in line with the modular theory as opposed to the integrated theory. So according to this laboratory phonology, phonetics and phonology are not integrated fields, rather than these are the two modular or two different models, or it's a modular theory in which phonology and phonetics are considered two different fields. So to sum up all this discussion, we can say, although there are some sort of similarities, some sort of connectivity between these two fields of phonetics and phonology, and there are a strong relationship between these two phonology, if we want to conclude this discussion, we can say that although these are the different, but they have relationship. Although these are some having some distinctive features, but one provides foundation to another, so that's why we can say these are the interconnected, interrelated, as phonetics, which provides the physical features of the speech sounds, in phonology tells us about the abstract features of the or cognitive features of the speech sounds. So these are the interrelated, or there is a strong relationship between these two distinctive fields. Okay, goodbye. It's the end of our today's lecture.